Humans, elves, gnomes, dryads, vampires. They all came to the continent at different times. So this video, I just want to share with you the, information on which race came to the continent first. And the race that is super egotistical about it. Calm down, elves. Calm down. So like I said in the intro, this video is just to give you a quick rundown of when the different races in the Witcherverse came to the continent, which is the main body land that the story takes place on. Don't spoil the books for other people. The continent's the main land that everything takes place on. I do a wink, but I look weird when I do it. This is really important because this adds to what we're going to see unfold in season 2 of Netflix's The Witcher, and why certain races getting to the continent first, it causes some issues. In fact, knowing who got to the continent first and how different races behaved when getting to said continent is the center of why everything happens. Okay, so to start, elves, gnomes, and dwarves make up what is called the elder races, though they all came at different times. So let's start with the first race to arrive on the continent. That would be gnomes, most likely. There are talks that other sentient beings may have gotten to the continent first, but the strongest evidence points to gnomes got there first. Gnomes can be recognized by their short height, typically around 3 feet tall, long pointed noses, teeth, and ears, and not much else is available exactly how and when they got to the world, but them being the eldest is stated many, many times. So gnomes, they got there first. Next, most likely, was the dryads or nymphs of the woods. They came to the continent after the gnomes. Their exact date of arrival isn't known, however, most evidence points to them coming after gnomes and before the dwarves. Which brings us to dwarves. Obviously. I kind of set myself up there. See? Sometimes I kind of have a logical progression in videos. Still boring as fuck, though. So 3,000 to 4,000 years before the show and the books, dwarves came to the continent. Dwarves can be recognized by their stocky short bodies and just fabulous beards. When dwarves came to the continent and met up with the gnomes, it was about the most peaceful meeting of different races in the history of the continent. Not surprisingly, dwarves and gnomes just got along super well. They were like besties. In fact, even in the time of the show and the books, gnomes and dwarves still have a strong relationship with each other and coexist in relative peace with each other. Now, I say that, but while dwarves and gnomes got along, the dryads weren't too happy with the dwarves as they polluted the earth with all their smithing and mining. This caused a lot of tension between the two races, and some squabbles did happen. By the way, halflings did come to the continent around this time, but there's not a lot of information in general on when they decided to colonize the continent, so I guess for them, I'll leave you with this super hilarious quote about halflings in the Witcherverse. "Halflings are incredibly fast and can throw all sorts of missiles unerringly," which is a sentence that precedes one of the best non-main character scenes in the books. Seriously, those halflings just whooped those boys' asses. And they had it coming, in case you're like, oh, super aggressive. No, they went to the halflings during a time of war to fuck them up and rob them, and the halflings just fucked up their day. Next, elves came to the continent about 2,500-ish years before the books and the show. Elves have large eyes, are tall with pointed ears, appear youthful and attractive, and just have an otherness about them. I kind of think in the show they've done a poor job of showing the otherness of elves, so I'm hoping they do a better job of that in season 2. It is said elves came to the continent on their white ships, but from where is the fun part? Without spoiling the fun for the show, they came from somewhere very different than the continent and the world it exists in. Regardless of where they came from, elves, they're a bit insufferable. Very insufferable. When they came to the continent, they started to slowly colonize it, sometimes peacefully, other times some conflict did arise. However, unlike as you'll see with the humans, the elves never practiced genocide against the other races, nor went full-scale war. By the time of the books, and I'm assuming the show, the elder races still get along fairly well. Elves do like to brag about being the elder race, especially when it comes to humans, who came after them, as we'll get to. And dwarves and gnomes have to kind of smack them into place and go, hey, we were here first, Stop getting all high and mighty. Okay, so lastly, let's talk about humans arriving on the continent, because humans arriving is when the issues started. And Andrzej Sapkowski did say that there is Earth, our version of Earth in this world, and that humans came from that planet after we just totally fucked it up, which is not surprising in the least bit. Humans just love fucking shit up. Especially, like, areas where they actually have to live. Why would you do that? Oh, money. Humans came to the continent after the conjunction of spheres between 1500 and 1,000 years before the books, and it looks around 1,000 years for the show, but we'll see. Seems like they're still tweaking the timeline a bit. Humans, being humans, learned magic from the elves, then started to conquer and screw over the other races. I mean, humans got to the continent, and they just started bloody conflict after bloody conflict, dominating the land, driving the elder races from their homes, building on top of, or just destroying their cities in the process, though honestly the elves, being prideful idiots, also would destroy a city they were about to lose at times. This all continued until what is known as the Northern Kingdoms came about, human-run kingdoms that treat the elder races like second-class citizens. For example, here's a fun quote about how the other races are treated as second-rate citizens by humans on the continent. In addition, dwarves, gnomes, elves, and halflings are paying increased pull and chimney tax. If they engage in trade or manufacturing, they are also charged with a compulsory, non-human donation of 10 per 100 groats. In this way, I hand over 60% of my income to the treasury. My bank, including all its branches, give the four kingdoms 600 marks a year. For your information, that's almost 3 times as much as a wealthy duke or earl pays in levy on an extensive estate. Now, some have accepted this better than others. Some have realized, okay, this really sucks and this isn't fair, but we need to try to get along with the humans. As one dwarf in the books put it, "For over 100 years, we've been trying to come to terms with the humans. The halflings, gnomes, us, even the elves. Damn it all, it took 100 years, but somehow or other we managed to live a common life next to each other, together. We managed to partially convince humans that we're not so very different." But as you remember, there are some that have decided, screw you, we were here first. We absolutely will not accept any help or coexisting with you human scum. Which you get. You know, I would be a little pissy too if I was the elder races and another race came to my continent and just started screwing me over. That's never happened in our history. As for monsters, they came when the conjunction happened. In the books, again, that's 1,500 years ago. The show, it's a little over 1,000. I guess you could consider certain monsters a race, especially vampires or higher vampires. But I didn't want to make this video crazy long. Also, vampires are really terrifying. I would never mess with one or accuse someone of being one because that just seems really stupid, you know? So that is when the different races came to the continent, or at least the quickest overview I could do. Sorry, I like to run my mouth. That's what happens when you get old, sorry. Like, subscribe, come back for, I don't know. Ponies?